The day started like any other in the distant future. Humans, still grappling with their place in the vast galaxy, had made a name for themselves among the stars, but it wasn't the name they had hoped for. They had come a long way since the first moon landing, but to the alien species who now ruled the galaxy, humans were still nothing more than a joke. The aliens, known as the Zerothians, were a powerful and ancient race who had conquered countless worlds. They had advanced technology. That made human ships look like toys. With their long, spindly limbs and glowing blue eyes, the Zerothians regarded humans with disdain. To them, humanity was a fragile, primitive species, easily mocked and dismissed. Lucas Reeve stood in the middle of a bustling galactic conference, his heart heavy with the weight of the moment. As a representative of Earth, he had traveled across the stars to negotiate for peace and resources, yet all his efforts had been in vain. Every time he tried to speak, the Zerothians laughed. They mocked human attempts to explore space, belittling the technology that had once seemed so groundbreaking. "Your ships are made of rust," one of the Zerothians sneered, their voice hissing through the air like a snake. "You rely on old technology, barely keeping your planet together. How quaint." Lucas clenched his fists, trying to keep his cool. He had heard this many times before. The aliens seemed to enjoy reminding humanity of its inferiority. They didn't just mock Earth. They mocked its people, its culture, its very existence. But today, Lucas could feel the sting of their words more sharply than ever. The conference room was filled with voices, laughter, murmurs, and the occasional hiss of derision.
Ow.
The Zerothians sat on their high thrones, their cold eyes scanning the room. They were towering figures, their presence overwhelming. Humans, on the other hand, were smaller, less imposing, easily ignored. As Lucas stood there trying to formulate a response, one of the Zerothian leaders, a creature named Velder, rose from his throne. His movements were slow, deliberate, and full of a power that seemed to suffocate the room. "Tell me, human," Velder's voice echoed through the chamber. "How long do you intend to keep up this charade? You are not fit to be among the stars. Your kind cannot even protect yourselves from the dangers that lurk in the dark corners of the galaxy. The universe has no place for your weakness." The other Zerothians laughed again, their eerie voices filling the room like a chorus of mocking cackles. Lucas felt a flush of anger rise in his chest, but he bit it back. He couldn't afford to show weakness, not now, not when the fate of humanity hung in the balance. He glanced around the room. The other human representatives stood with their heads down, eyes fixed on the floor, avoiding the gaze of the Zerothians. They were afraid, and why shouldn't they be? The Zerothians had crushed every species they encountered. Who were the humans to think they could stand up to them? Lucas's thoughts were interrupted when a Zerothian soldier, towering over him, leaned in close. His breath reeked of something alien and foul. "You humans," the soldier sneered, "are nothing but ants, weak, helpless. Do you really think you can challenge us?" The words stung, but they also ignited something within Lucas. The humiliation was unbearable. But it also fueled his determination. He'd spent years preparing for this moment, believing that humanity had something to offer the galaxy. Here he was, standing in front of the very beings who considered humans beneath them, laughing at their efforts, and then something unexpected happened. In the midst of the ridicule, Lucas heard something, a faint whisper that seemed to come from the depths of the abandoned spaceship they had recently discovered. It was a voice, low and distant, but unmistakable. Me. It was the faintest sound, barely audible above the laughter of the Zerothians, but Lucas's heart skipped a beat. Was it a trick of his mind, or was there someone else out there? He turned, looking toward the distant corner of the room. The Zerothians didn't seem to notice, lost in their mocking laughter. But Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in the air, a presence he couldn't explain. The voice called again, this time louder, clearer. "Help. Me. Find it." Lucas's mind raced. What was it? Who was calling for help? He couldn't ignore it. His instincts told him there was more at play here than just the humiliation of humanity. Something deep within the spaceship, something ancient, is the laughter. As the laughter of the Zorathians continued, Lucas felt a growing sense of urgency. The aliens could mock humanity all they wanted, but deep down, he knew there was something. They didn't understand. There was power in the universe beyond their reach. And if Lucas could find it, humanity might just have a chance to prove the Zorathians wrong. He took a deep breath, knowing that his next steps could change everything. He needed to find the source of that voice. Whatever it was, it held the key to humanity's future. And with that thought, Lucas Reeve, humiliated but not broken, made his decision. He would find the ancient power hidden in the forgotten spaceship hand. He would show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. The humiliation of mankind was just the beginning. The cold silence of space hung in the air as Lucas Reeve stepped out of the conference hall, still reeling from the humiliation of the Zorothians' ridicule. The words they'd thrown at humanity echoed in his mind, sharp and biting, weak, primitive, helpless. But amidst the taunts and jeers, there had been that strange whisper. It was like a distant voice, faint but undeniably real. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this mission, something the Zorathians didn't understand, something hidden within the forgotten spaceship. He had to find out what it was. The thought gnawed at him, growing stronger by the minute. This was more than just a fight for humanity's pride. It was a chance to uncover something ancient, something that could change everything. Lucas boarded the shuttle that would take him back to the abandoned spaceship, which hovered just beyond the Zorathian fleet. It was a relic, a forgotten warship lost to time, abandoned in the far reaches of the galaxy. The human team had stumbled upon it by accident during their exploration, but there was something off about it. The ship's design was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, a strange fusion of organic and metallic materials. Its surface gleaming with an eerie, unnatural light. The shuttle's engines hummed as it cut through the void, drawing closer to the ancient ship. The closer they got, the more unsettling the scene became. The ship's massive form loomed ahead, its towering silhouette dark against the backdrop of distant stars. Its shape was asymmetrical, as if it had been pieced together over eons by unknown hands. There were no markings, no identifying features, only the silent, haunting presence of a once great vessel now left to drift in the void. As the shuttle docked and the airlock opened, Lucas felt a chill sweep over him. It wasn't the cold of space. It was something deeper, more primal. The ship had an aura of age, of mystery, as if it had been waiting for someone to find it. Waiting for him. The crew stepped out cautiously, scanning their surroundings. The interior of the ship was like a labyrinth, its walls covered in strange symbols and alien writing. The air was stale, thick with the scent of decay. But there was also something more, something that hinted at power. A subtle hum vibrated through the walls, barely perceptible, but it seemed to call out to Lucas. "Let's stick together." One of the crew members, Sarah, said nervously, "This place gives me the creeps." Lucas nodded, but his eyes were fixed on the walls ahead. The markings seemed to shift as if alive, reacting to his presence. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, but there was something compelling him forward. The whisper, was it coming from here? Was this the source? They made their way through the dimly lit corridors, following a narrow passage that led them deeper into the ship. The deeper they went, the more the ship seemed to close in around them. The walls pulsed with strange energy, and the air grew heavier with every step. Finally, they reached a chamber unlike any they had seen before. It was vast, its ceiling lost in shadows, and the floor was covered in intricate patterns that glowed faintly. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which rested a suit and armor, like nothing Lucas had ever imagined. The suit was tall, its design a perfect blend of organic curves and metallic edges, pulsating with an energy that seemed to hum in sync with his heartbeat. The whisper returned, louder now, clearer than before. "Help, find me." Lucas stepped forward, his breath catching in his throat. He reached out tentatively, his fingers brushing against the cool surface of the armor. A surge of energy shot through him, electric and intense, as if the armor recognized The moment his skin touched the suit, the entire room seemed to come alive. The walls shuddered, and the floor vibrated beneath his feet. "Lucas, are you all right?" Sarah's voice broke through the chaos, but Lucas didn't answer. Couldn't. In that moment, the truth hit him like a freight train. The armor was meant for him. He could feel its power coursing through him, a power far beyond human comprehension. This was the key. Whatever the Zorathians had hidden, whatever they had feared, it was here, in this suit. The armor had chosen him, and it had awakened something deep inside him, something that could change the fate of humanity forever. The rest of the crew stood frozen, unsure of what to do. The ship itself seemed to pulse with life as Lucas carefully stepped into the suit. It fitted him perfectly, as if it had been waiting for his body, tailored for his form. As the last piece clicked into place, Lucas felt a surge of strength unlike anything he had ever known. His mind raced, understanding the suit's technology in an instant, as if it was a part of him. And then, as the armor's energy surged through him, he understood the voice. It was calling him to something greater, to something hidden deep within. The forgotten spaceship. The Zorathians had no idea what they were up against. "Get back," Lucas shouted, his voice booming with authority he hadn't known he possessed. His eyes glowed with a fierce new light as he turned to the crew, now standing in awe. "We have to finish what we started. We need to find out who built this and why." But before anyone could respond, the ship began to shake violently, as if it was waking up from a long slumber. The floor beneath their feet cracked open, revealing hidden passages that led deeper into the ship's core. The adventure had only just begun, and Lucas was no longer just a human representative. It was something more, something that could make the Zorathians' mocking words taste like dust. Humanity was about to show the galaxy its true strength. And it all started with this ancient armor. The ship groaned, its ancient walls shifting as if waking from a long, forgotten sleep. The hum of the armor pulsed through Lucas, synchronizing with his heartbeat. He felt the strange energy that surged from it like an old power that had waited centuries for its time to return. His body seemed lighter, yet stronger. Every movement felt like it was powered by something far greater than mere muscle and bone. It was as if he had tapped into the very essence of the universe itself. Lucas stood tall in the middle of the room, still adjusting to the overwhelming sensation that came with the suit's power. His hands clenched into fists, and he could feel the suit responding, its inner systems syncing with his thoughts. He could feel the ship vibrating beneath his feet, its walls thrumming in harmony with the armor. "Lucas, are you ... all right?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling, her eyes wide with disbelief. She had never seen him like this, never seen anyone like this. He turned toward her, his eyes glowing with a strange light. The others looked on in awe, their mouths hanging open as they tried to comprehend the transformation unfolding before them. "I'm more than all right," Lucas replied, his voice deeper than before, more commanding. This ... this is just the beginning." The armor hummed with approval, its systems coming alive, as if it recognized the determination in Lucas. Words. He could feel the ship around him reacting, as if the ancient vessel acknowledged that its true purpose had been awakened. It was not just a relic, it was a weapon, and it had chosen him. The crew, still in shock, could barely process what was happening.
Us!
They had come to explore a forgotten relic, a ship lost to time. But now, they had stumbled upon something far greater, an ancient suit that could change the fate of not just humanity, but the galaxy itself. The walls of the chamber glowed brighter as Lucas stepped forward. He could feel the air around him shifting, almost like the ship was guiding him, drawing him toward something. A hidden door slid open ahead, revealing a dark corridor that seemed to stretch deep into the bowels of the ship. It was almost as if the ship itself was inviting him to explore further. Without hesitation, Lucas walked toward the corridor, every step resonating with the newfound power in his body. The others hesitated, exchanging nervous glances, but Lucas didn't look back. He knew that whatever lay ahead was the key to understanding the armor, the ship, and the mysterious forces at play. This was his mission now. As he moved deeper into the ship, the walls seemed to come alive with alien symbols. Strange patterns glowed and shifted as if they were trying to communicate something. To him, Lucas reached out, his hand instinctively touching the wall. Instantly, his mind was flooded with images, flickering flashes of a time long past. He saw massive battles fought with weapons of unimaginable power, worlds torn apart by destruction, and beings that looked like the Zorathians, only far more ancient, more powerful. But then, amidst the chaos, he saw something even stranger, being encased in a suit of armor, similar to the one Lucas wore now, standing tall and unyielding against a dark force. The vision faded as quickly as it had come, leaving Lucas breathless. The connection was undeniable. Its armor, the ship, had been designed for a purpose. It was a weapon meant to fight something far older and darker than the Zorathians, something that had been forgotten by time. "Lucas, what's going on?" Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. She had followed him into the corridor, the rest of the crew trailing behind. Their faces were filled with fear and confusion, but there was a glimmer of hope in their eyes, too. They could feel it, the weight of history pressing down on them. "It's not just a suit," Lucas muttered, almost to himself. "This armor is part of something much bigger. It's a battle that's been forgotten, till now." The crew stopped in their tracks as Lucas's words sank in. They had all known that humanity's place in the universe was tenuous at best. They had always been told they were nothing compared to the ancient civilizations of the galaxy. This was different. This was a discovery that could shift the balance of power. It was more than a weapon. It was a key. And that key was now in their hands. Ahead, the corridor opened into a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. In the center of the room stood a large, crystalline structure. It pulsed with an eerie, soft light, the same energy that seemed to radiate from the armor. As Lucas approached, the suit responded, its power growing stronger. He could feel the air crackling with energy, the walls of the chamber humming with a strange resonance. The crystal seemed to be the heart of the ship, the source of its power. And it was here, in this forgotten place, that the true purpose of the armor would be revealed. The Zorathians had no idea what they were up against. The weapon they had mocked, the suit they had disregarded, was a relic from a war that stretched across the fabric of time itself, and now it had chosen Lucas to carry its burden. Lucas stood before the crystal, his mind racing with questions. What had this ship once fought against? Why had it been abandoned? Most importantly, why had the armor chosen him? The crystal pulsed again, sending a wave of energy through his body. The suit seemed to respond, amplifying the energy. In that moment, Lucas knew the battle was far from over. The Zorathians were just the beginning. What lay ahead was something far darker, and he was ready to face it. Armor had awakened. The relic of power had found its champion. Humanity's true journey was about to begin. The chamber trembled with energy as Lucas stood before the glowing crystal, the pulse of power resonating through every fiber of his being. The armor encasing him hummed in perfect harmony with the pulsating light, as if it had a life of its own. It wasn't just a suit of battle gear, it was a conduit, a link to something ancient and powerful. The suit was more than just protection. It was a gateway to unimaginable strength and understanding. The crystal in front of him seemed alive, its light shifting in shades of blue and silver, twisting like a nebula. With every beat of the pulse, it vibrated, sending waves of energy through the air. Lucas could feel the hum in his bones, a sensation unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as though the crystal and the armor were connected, as though they shared the same heartbeat. For the first time since stepping into the suit, Lucas allowed himself to close his eyes and focus. The rush of power was overwhelming, but he needed to understand it. He needed to know how to control it. As he concentrated, the strange symbols etched into the walls of the chamber began to glow with a faint, ethereal light, slowly shifting in patterns he could almost understand. The symbols weren't just decorations, they were instructions. A language of power. The suit, it seemed, was more than just technology. It was built to adapt, to learn, to respond to its wearer. And it had chosen him. A sudden jolt of energy surged through him, and Lucas gasped, his mind flooded with images in alien battlefield. Strange alien ships firing massive weapons that shook planets, fleets clashing in space, And amidst all this chaos, there was the figure of the armored being, standing tall and unyielding, leading the charge against a force that was pure darkness. The being was invincible, surrounded by a shield of blinding energy, cutting through enemies with speed and strength that no other creature could match. Lucas opened his eyes, and the images faded, leaving him breathless. But now he understood. The armor was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of resistance. It was designed to fight against a force so dark, so powerful, that it had been sealed away. The crystal, the ship. The armor, all of it was part of something far greater than the conflict between the Zorathians and humanity. This was a battle that had raged across the stars for eons, a war that had been forgotten but not lost. Lucas, ... Are you seeing this? Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, her voice filled with awe and fear. She stood at the entrance of the chamber, the rest of the crew gathered behind her, watching as Lucas interacted with the crystal. The air around him seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. He turned to face her, his eyes glowing brighter than before, the armor responding to his thoughts, to his emotions. I'm seeing what the Zorathians don't want us to see. This is bigger than any of us. The armor, the ship, the crystallits, all a part of a war that's been going on for longer than we can imagine. A war against something dark. The crew looked at one another, uncertainty written on their faces. They had come here expecting a simple exploration of a forgotten vessel, but now they had uncovered something much more dangerous. Whatever Lucas was becoming, whatever he had tapped into, it was clear that they were no longer just explorers. They were part of something much larger, something that had the potential to change the course of their lives, and perhaps the fate of the entire galaxy. As Lucas moved toward the crystal, his mind began to align with the armor's systems. It was as if the suit was unlocking its secrets, revealing information hidden deep within the core of the ship. The ancient suit, the forgotten warship, the crystallit, was all coming together in his mind. And he realized that it wasn't just the Zorathians who had been keeping secrets. There was something far worse lurking out there. A force of darkness that had nearly destroyed civilizations long before humanity had even set foot on the stars. The voice from before echoed in his mind again, louder this time. Help. Find me. It was a cry for aid, a plea from someone or something trapped in time, waiting for rescue. Lucas felt a shiver run down his spine. This wasn't just an artifact. It was a distress signal, a warning. Who is it? He whispered to himself, but the answer was unclear. The voice wasn't just a call for help. It was something older, something far more powerful. The crystal pulsed once again, sending a wave of energy through the room. This time, the energy didn't just surge through Lucas. It reached out, touching the rest of the crew, and as the wave passed through them, they each experienced a moment of clarity. The symbols on the walls, the ship's history, it all unfolded in their minds like a grand design. They saw what Lucas had seen, a war across time and space, an ancient struggle between light and darkness. They saw the armor, the being, who had once worn it, leading the charge against the darkness. The armor had been designed to combat this force. Now it had chosen Lucas to continue the fight. A voice, this time coming from deep within the ship, spoke clearly, resonating in their minds. The time has come. Lucas looked up, his heart pounding. The Zorathians were still out there, laughing at humanity, but they had no idea what was waiting for them. What humanity had just uncovered, the Zorathians had believed they were the superior race in the galaxy, that they held all the power. But they were wrong. The true power lay within this forgotten relic. This is our fight. Now, Lucas said, his voice steady with newfound confidence. We've unlocked the armor's secrets. We've awakened its power, and we will use it to face whatever comes next. The crew stood in awe, realizing the magnitude of what had just occurred. The journey that had started as a simple exploration had turned into something far more dangerous. Humanity was no longer the weak species the Zorathians had mocked. With the armor, with the ship, they had a chance to rewrite the galaxy's future, but there was still much they didn't know. Battle was far from over. The darkness was coming, and Lucas was ready to lead the charge. The ship shuddered once more as the power of the armor coursed through Lucas, each pulse of energy fueling his resolve. He felt alive in a way that no human had ever felt before. The suit was more than just a protective shell, it was a conduit, a bridge to untapped strength. Every movement he made now was faster, sharper, more precise. He wasn't just wearing armor, he was becoming something more, something far beyond the limits of human capability. The rest of the crew stood at a distance, watching with a mix of awe and uncertainty as Lucas, now fully attuned to the armor, moved with an almost supernatural grace. They had seen the change in him. The power he now wielded was unimaginable, and it was only a matter of time before the Zorathians discovered it. Lucas didn't need to hear them laugh anymore. He could feel their fear in the air, their realization that humanity had stumbled upon something far greater than they could comprehend. "We need to act fast," Lucas said, his voice calm yet filled with an undeniable edge. "The Zorathians won't be mocking humanity for much longer. They'll realize what we have, and they'll come for us.
Ow!
And when they do, we'll be ready." The crew nodded, some with reluctance, others with growing determination. It was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the future of humanity, for the power to challenge the universe's most advanced species and prove once and for all that humans were not to be underestimated.
Outside the ship's atmosphere was crackling with tension.
The Zorathian fleet was still in orbit, unaware of the storm that was about to hit them. They had underestimated humanity's will to survive. They had mocked them, but now they were about to learn that the mockery would be their undoing. Lucas turned to the control panel in front of him, his fingers dancing over the buttons, the interface responding to his touch almost instinctively. The ship's systems, now fully awake and synced with the armor, were at his command. He could feel the hum of energy pulsing through the vessel, as if the ship itself were preparing for battle. The walls seemed to vibrate in response, an almost imperceptible tremor that signaled the awakening of something ancient, something that had been dormant for centuries. "Prepare yourselves," Lucas said, his voice steady, his eyes glowing. "With the power of the armor, this is it. The Zorathians won't know what hit them." As he spoke, a new voice emerged, an alien voice, cold and calculated, filling the room with its chilling presence. "You've awakened something you cannot control," the voice hissed, the words punctuated by a low growl that seemed to vibrate. "The very air, the armor belongs to us. You should have never disturbed it." Lucas's heart raced. It was Veldor, the Zorathian leader, speaking through the ship's communication system. The arrogance in his voice was unmistakable. He was taunting them, challenging them, but Lucas could sense the fear just beneath the surface. The Zorathians hadn't yet fully realized what they were up against, but they would soon. "You don't control anything, Veldor," Lucas replied, his voice calm, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "The armor chose me, and with it, I will show you just how wrong you are." The Zorathian leader's voice grew colder. "You think you are ready? You think your little armor will make a difference? We are the Zorathians. We have ruled the galaxy for millennia, and you," he spat, "are nothing." The mocking tone only fueled Lucas's resolve. "You're wrong," he said. "You're everything. Humanity is everything, and we will rise." Suddenly, the ship's viewports erupted with light as the Zorathian fleet appeared in full force. Their ships massive and intimidating, their weapons ready for combat. Lucas's heart beat faster, but it was not fear that drove him, it was anticipation. This was the moment he had been waiting for. This was the moment humanity would prove its worth, not through words, but through action. He stepped forward, the suit's systems amplifying every movement, every thought. The Zorathian fleet's ships moved into position, their guns charging, preparing for the attack. But Lucas didn't flinch. Instead, he raised his hand, and the ship responded, its massive weapons locking into place with a soft, mechanical hum. The pulse of the crystal seemed to grow stronger, its energy feeding into the ship's systems. The Zorathians had made a grave mistake. They had assumed their technology was unbeatable, their dominance absolute. but now they were about to face a new kind of power. The power of something ancient, something that had been forgotten, something that the Zerothians had never dreamed of encountering. The first volley of fire came, massive beams of energy racing toward Lucas's ship. But with a flick of his wrist, the armor responded, deflecting the blasts effortlessly. It wasn't just shielding it was absorbing, redirecting the energy back toward the attacking ships. "Is that all you've got?" Lucas called out, his voice filled with a mix of amusement and challenge. The Zerothians had expected a fight, but what they didn't expect was for their own weapons to turn against them. The armor pulsed with energy, and in an instant, Lucas's ship launched a counterattack, sending a barrage of firepower at the Zerothian fleet. The energy blasts tore through their ships with ease, disintegrating the first wave of attackers. In seconds, Lucas's eyes glowed with an intensity that matched the energy of the blasts. He had never felt power like this before, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. The Zerothians, stunned by the sudden turn of events, tried to regroup. But they were no match for the speed and strength of the armor. The tide of battle had shifted, and it was clear humanity was no longer the weak, insignificant species the Zerothians had thought them to be. In the heat of the battle, Lucas's thoughts raced. He had proven a point, yes, but this was just the beginning. The Zerothians were powerful, but they were not invincible. And now, with the armor at his command, Lucas had a weapon the likes of which the galaxy had never seen. And the Zerothians would never forget the day they mocked humanity. Because that day, humanity fought back. The Zerothian fleet, once so confident in their superiority, now found themselves in retreat. The shockwaves from Lucas's retaliatory strike had rippled across their ranks, sending their ships into disarray. It was as if the very fabric of their invincibility had been torn apart in an instant. But Lucas knew this was only the beginning. The Zerothians were not a species to give up easily, and their pride would push them to strike back harder than ever. The battlefield outside was a mess of flashing lights and energy blasts, each ship maneuvering desperately to avoid the onslaught. Lucas, however, was in complete control. His suit, alive with energy, amplified every decision he made. The once dominant fleet of the Zerothians now seemed nothing more than a collection of cornered animals. And Lucas, the last unexpected champion, was their hunter. But even as his ship tore through the skies, dismantling the Zerothians' forces, piece by piece, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He felt a shift in the atmosphere, an unsettling quiet that hung between the pulses of battle. It was as though the Zerothians had stopped reacting, stopped fighting with their usual viciousness. "Lucas." "Something's wrong," Sarah said, her voice crackling over the communication system. "The fleet's not responding the way they should. They're changing course." Lucas' eyes narrowed as he studied the movements of the Zerothian ships. They weren't retreating anymore. They were regrouping. The entire fleet, now united, was heading towards something, a single point in space, just beyond the farthest reach of their current battle zone. Something Lucas didn't understand. He raised his hand to the controls. But before he could speak, a cold voice filled the air, a voice that wasn't the Zerothian leader, but one far darker, far older. "Enough," the voice hissed, sending a chill down Lucas's spine. It wasn't just a voice. It was a presence of force that seemed to infiltrate his very thoughts. "You dare challenge us? You are nothing but a fleeting spark in the vast, empty darkness of the cosmos." Lucas stiffened, the energy from the armor pulsating, the voice sending waves of unease through him. He felt it like an invisible weight pressing down on his chest. Whoever or whatever was speaking to him wasn't just another Zerothian. It was something far more terrifying. "I am not afraid of you," Lucas said, his voice strong but laced with a tremor of doubt he couldn't fully control. "I've fought too long, too hard. You won't stop me. We will not be your pawns any longer." The voice chuckled, low and menacing. "You misunderstand? You are not the one in control here, human. You will not fight us. You will join us. We are the architects of fate." Suddenly the Zerothian fleet halted. The vast armada, once brimming with aggression, now stood still in the vast expanse of space, as if they had become a part of something larger, something unfathomable. At their center, a colossal, ominous ship emerged from the shadows of the galaxy, a ship far older than the Zorothians themselves. It glowed with an eerie, unnatural light, its form an unsettling mix of organic and mechanical. It was unlike anything Lucas had ever seen. This was no ordinary warship. The voice spoke again, its tone colder than before, but now laced with an undeniable threat. Witness the true power of the Ancient Ones. Before Lucas could react, the immense ship released a wave of dark energy, a wave so powerful that it sent shockwaves through the battlefield. The armor's systems screamed in warning as the blast hit, shaking the very foundation of the ship. Lucas was aboard. For a moment, everything went black. The overwhelming force pushed him to his knees. "Lucas!" Sarah's frantic voice broke through the static, but it sounded far away. "Stay with us. You've got this." The feedback from the suit's systems was almost unbearable. The dark energy that had radiated from the ancient ship was unlike anything Lucas had encountered. It was the void of force that disrupted the very fabric of space, a force that sought to consume everything in its path. It was as if the ship itself was alive, feeding on the energy of the universe. Lucas gritted his teeth. He had to regain control. He couldn't let the armor's power slip away. Not now. Focusing all his willpower, Lucas fought to align the suit's systems with his own thoughts. The armor responded, pulsing to life again, its energy surging back into him. But the force of the ancient ship was relentless, pressing against him like an unyielding tide. Lucas could feel his energy reserves depleting. It's the very essence of his being drained. For a fleeting moment, doubt crept in. Had he bitten off more than he could chew? Or the Zorothians, with their centuries of conquest, really the lesser threat? Was this what the armor had truly been made for, facing an entity so ancient and powerful that even it had to be sealed away? No. Lucas clenched his fists, the suit amplifying his resolve. He wouldn't let it end like this. "I will not be your pawn," Lucas muttered under his breath. "I will fight. We will fight." The energy inside him flared once more, stronger than before. The armor, now fully synchronized with his will, surged with power, and Lucas pushed forward, drawing every ounce of strength he had left. He reached for the weapon systems of the ship, his mind calculating the perfect strike. He needed to disrupt the flow of energy from the ancient ship. He needed to stop it before it consumed everything. With a final, desperate effort, Lucas directed the ship's weapons at the colossal vessel, firing a concentrated blast of energy that collided with the dark force emanating from it. The clash of energy was deafening. For a moment, Lucas thought it might be enough. But then the darkness fought back. The wave of dark energy intensified, pushing Lucas to the brink. The ancient ship's power was overwhelming, but Lucas's resolve was stronger. He felt something inside him snap. The armor had unlocked something new, something he couldn't fully comprehend, something he knew would turn the tide. He was no longer just a man in a suit. He was the last stand against a darkness that had plagued the universe for eons, and he would fight until there was nothing left to fight for. The battlefield was chaos. The remnants of the Zorothian fleet, now scattered in pieces across the void, were no match for the ancient ship and its dark energy. Lucas's hands gripped the controls of his ship, his body thrumming with the raw power of the armor. But even with the Zorothian forces in retreat, the true battle had yet to be won. The ancient vessel, its dark presence looming large in the distance, was still there, hanging like a shadow in the emptiness, pulling at the very fabric of the galaxy. Lucas had felt it for what seemed like an eternity now, the weight of the universe's past pressing down on him, urging him to finish what had begun. The Zorothians, blinded by their arrogance, had not understood the magnitude of the power they had uncovered. But Lucas, now fully connected to the ancient armor and its hidden secrets, saw the truth. This was not just about defeating a few alien invaders. This was the final stand, the confrontation with an ancient evil that had lain dormant for millennia. The dark energy radiating from the ancient ship had been unrelenting, but Lucas had learned to channel it, to fight it with the very power the suit had granted him. He could feel the energy shifting now, as though the armor had reached its full potential. The very cosmos seemed to hold its breath as Lucas prepared for the final battle. He was ready not just for himself, but for humanity's future. "This is it," Lucas said quietly, the weight of his words hanging in the air. "If we don't stop it now, it'll consume everything. Not just the Zorthians, but us. The entire galaxy."
How the universe.
Sarah and the rest of the crew huddled together in the command room, watched in silence. They had followed Lucas from the beginning, but now they saw the man he had become. His transformation was complete. No longer just a representative of humanity, no longer a symbol of their weakness, Lucas had become something far greater. He was the protector of their future. "Do you think we stand a chance?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, filled with doubt, but there was a fire in her eyes. She knew just as he did that this was their only shot. Lucas's eyes narrowed as he looked out into the void. The ancient ship was drawing closer now, its dark energy seeping outward like a wound. In space, he felt the power in his bones, the suit alive with an energy that was almost too much to bear, but he couldn't stop, not now. Humanity had come too far to turn back. "I don't think we have a choice," Lucas replied, his voice steady and determined. "We have to win." With a flick of his wrist, Lucas sent the ship into a spiral toward the ancient vessel. All the while, the dark energy swirling around him, threatening to pull him in. But he wasn't afraid. With each pulse of power, he felt more alive, more attuned to the suit, to the energy that coursed through him. The battle was no longer about force, it was about will. And Lucas had the strength to fight, to push through the storm of darkness that sought to engulf them. The ship's massive weapons locked into place. Humming with the power of the crystal, its ancient energy now fully aligned with Lucas. He reached for the controls, his mind sharper than ever, his connection to the ship and the suit perfect. Everything he had done had led him to this moment. And now he was ready. The dark ship loomed ahead, its form vast and monstrous, its surface covered in symbols and markings far older than the Zorthians, or even humanity. Lucas could see now that it was more than just a weapon. It was a prisoner containment field for something even darker, something that had once been sealed away. The voice that had haunted him, the force that had tried to control him, now grew, louder. It was alive within the ship, within the very energy that was tearing the galaxy apart. "You think you can defeat me?" The voice echoed in his mind, cold and mocking. "I am beyond your understanding. You are nothing." Lucas didn't flinch. He had come too far, fought too hard to let this entity win. The voice, the darkness, no longer had any hold on him. "No," he said, his voice calm yet filled with the unwavering conviction of someone who had seen both the depths of despair and the heights of hope. "I'm not nothing, and neither is humanity." With a final burst of power, Lucas launched the ship forward, releasing a barrage of energy so intense that it shattered the dark energy surrounding the ancient ship. The blast collided with the ship's core, and for a moment, everything went silent. And then the explosion came. It was as if the very stars themselves trembled. A brilliant, blinding light erupted from the ancient vessel, its dark energy cracking like shattered glass. The ship's form buckled under the weight of the attack, its hull splitting apart. The darkness that had consumed it began to dissipate, unraveling like smoke in the wind. It was over. For a moment, Lucas couldn't breathe. The shockwave of the blast rippled through space, the intensity of it pushing even his suit to its limits. But the dark ship was gone. The entity that had once threatened the galaxy had been defeated, its power now nothing more than a fading echo. The Zorathians, witnessing the destruction of their greatest weapon, had no words left. Their fleet, crippled and leaderless, was now a scattered remnant of the once proud empire. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were witnessing the price of that mistake. Lucas slowly let go of the controls, his body exhausted, but his spirit unbroken. He had done it. The battle was won. The universe had been saved, and not just by him, but by every single person who had ever believed in the possibility of a future worth fighting for. He looked out at the stars, the silence of space now a welcome companion. The darkness had been pushed back. But Lucas knew this was only a brief reprieve. There would always be challenges, always new threats, new battles to fight. But for now, humanity had proven that they were more than just survivors. They were fighters. And no matter what came next, they would face it together. Humanity, Lucas whispered, his voice filled with quiet pride. We made it.